All right, good day and welcome into Bettor's Last Stand here from the Pine Room Studios here downtown in Wheeling, West Virginia. Matt here with you. Flying solo again today, that's okay. Chris and Coach have bocce. Luke has post one baseball. Cooley is in the most dangerous country in the world. Not North Korea, but anyway, I'm going to try to hold it down for us here. And we had a great week last week as far as our picks go, so hopefully we keep that going again. We'll have Sam coming up in the third segment of the program to talk about all things sports, but with a concentration on racing. We have no F1 race this week, but we're back on the IndyCar circuit as they go up to Toronto. So we got NASCAR and IndyCar on a Sunday afternoon here in July. It's hard to believe we're at the MLB All-Star break already. The All-Star game last night. The National League finally snaps their losing streak of 9 seasons and wins the game 3-2. So NL and under. Cash the ticket. You heard it on the podcast last week. Georgie the Champ Kettlewell gives out the winners. He had no run in the first inning. He had National League, and he had under. So he swept the board. If you tune into the podcast last that we had, which would have been yesterday, you would have heard George give that great analysis live on the air. So he gave us some winners. I had a pretty good week. We had a winner in golf again with Sepp Straka, so that's 2 weeks in a row. We've had the winner in the golf event, 50-1 for Sepp Straka, so a nice win there. We had Ricky Fowler the week before that. We were up over 50 units last week, so actually over 40 as a group. I myself was up around 51. Sam had a lot of bad breaks in the races. I did too. I did not do very good in racing. If you watch that race from Atlanta last Sunday evening, rain-shortened race, it kind of threw things upside down there during the late in the race. There was a lot of strategies and things that were going on that came into account that we weren't really expecting to show themselves, but the race went off with William Byron winning, so we'll talk more about that later in the program, but it wasn't a normal top 5 finishing order. A lot of guys up there that maybe shouldn't have. William Byron had some trouble early in the race. He's an extremely good driver, so I don't think it was anything that he, not selling him short. I mean, he actually had trouble and then benefited from a late caution and some guys pitted and so forth. So talk about that with Sam later in the show in segment number 3. But overall, we had a really strong week with our Bettor's Last Stand picks, and be sure to check those out on BLS_PRP on the Twitter or at the Pine Room Studios or at the Pine Room Podcast on Twitter. So we got those posted pretty much everywhere across our social media platforms. So be sure, check them out. Start piggybacking them. We're trying to stay hot. Hopefully we can. We like I said, I was up over 51 units last week, mostly because of Sepp Straka. But we had some losers in racing. AFL, if you're liking that, we were 10-5. We were 2-1 in the CFL, but horrible in the Big 3 basketball, and then racing just didn't really go our way either. We had a couple of okay winners there, but overall a loser. Tennis was going very well. We still have Novak Djokovic. We had Elena Rybakina, and she went down today. She won the first set. She's on serve in the second, and then things kind of came off the rails for her. And normally she is able to rally and pick herself up and never really count her out. But today she just didn't have it at the very end. Ons Jabeur took it to her, and it was just a really good tennis match. There was some incredible shot making in that Wimbledon quarterfinal. So we lost Rybakina. We still got the Joker left. Our quarters were pretty strong. We had some good runs. Gave out some picks last week on Twitter and social media throughout the week. We were 5 units up in tennis, I believe. So not bad. So solid week. Again, Wimbledon winding down right now. I'm going to talk about that here in a couple of minutes. Let's just go back to the All-Star game last night. 3-2 National League, the final. The night before, Vlad Guerrero wins the Home Run Derby at plus 340, knocking out Randy Arozarena. Was a play that I liked. I had Arozarena to go to the final. I didn't quite get it done. At least he cashed a couple of tickets there with his total over 28.5 total home runs, which he almost did in the first round. So that was good. Just needed to get him into the second round for that ticket to cash. So good one there. Elias Diaz, 65-1 to win the MVP. He hits last night with a 2-run home run late. The under, 13-1-2 in the last 16. I know Coach was on the over, gave that out on our radio show. So be sure in your check us out on the radio, the watchdognetwork.com. You can listen to our stream. They actually are upgrading our stream the last couple of days, so hopefully when we're on the air, by the time you listen to this next week, we'll have the stream up and going, and we got some really good guests. We have Brenda from Horrifying History, which will be tomorrow our time, so you can go back and archive that. We're going to put it into the podcast for this coming week. She joins us for an hour on Thursday, so we're really looking forward to talking to her about Charles Manson and some other really interesting things that she brings to the table on her podcast. And if you haven't checked it out, I highly urge you, if you enjoy history and outlandish type things and stories, it's a really, really good listen. So pop it on. Off-season update in college football, making news. Pat Fitzgerald fired for Northwestern after this alleged hazing scandal. A lot of details still yet to come out yet. It sounds like he may have been victimized by a disgruntled player. So I'm a little bit concerned about this. Hopefully it doesn't set a precedent, but nonetheless, from a betting standpoint, Northwestern is probably going to be fade material as the assistant coaches are taking over. You can't possibly think they didn't know about it. You're going to say Pat Fitzgerald, it was his responsibility to know because he was the head coach. Well, I can tell you from past experience, a lot of times the assistant coaches know more than the head coach when it comes to things like this. So hard to promote an assistant coach to a role of head coach when he probably had more culpability in it than the actual head coach. But nonetheless, Northwestern will be serious fade material. Their win total right now, I believe, is 3.5, and it was probably going to be a stretch for them to get over that anyway. But now the program upside down, you're probably going to see people leaving. Yes, right now 3.5. The under is now even money. So if you can get even money on that, I'd be jumping on that right now. Highly recommend that play. I think whenever you lose a coach this late in the season, you can't get rid of the whole staff. Things are just not going to go well for Northwestern this year. So sadly so. Thought Pat Fitzgerald was a pretty decent guy. I still think he is. I'm not going to blame him for the actions of others. And, I don't think this is a Joe Paterno situation. Now, that called for firing and termination, and Penn State sat on it and had the worst scandal in the history of sports. But that's for another day. College basketball, Bob Huggins in the news again, trying to get his job back. I don't know what's going to happen there. He's I don't really understand why he's trying to lie his way out of saying he didn't resign. But if he didn't write that letter, then that's interesting. So he should explain a little bit more, but don't treat us like fools. I mean, if you want to say on legal counsel you're seeking to get your job back because the university misrepresented something to you, then I totally understand that. Go after them, take them down, do whatever you need to do. But don't tell us you didn't resign. I mean, that seems hard to believe. You got a signed letter that everybody on the internet has out there. So Mountaineer basketball, I think, will be in trouble possibly this year too, and they could be absolute fade material as we get closer to college basketball. But that's not really a time to talk about that. NFL will be cranking up here soon. Don't have a whole lot to share from the NFL. It was a pretty quiet week as far as anybody that's been signed or anything along those lines. So we'll be cranking it back up when Coach and Luke or Chris or whoever comes back on the show here once their summer starts to settle down a little bit and we get we're really about a month away from the Hall of Fame game, or a little bit less. So it will not be long now, unfortunately. But we I guess most people look forward to the NFL, and it's quite entertaining. So we'll continue to monitor anything that comes up in the NFL. I gave out those 3 best bets a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't heard those, check them out. They were the Ravens over, the Texans over, and the Packers under. So go jump on those while you can. I still think the Ravens are a tremendous bet to win the division, to be over their win total. I think they're going to be very good. And I don't understand all the love for the Bengals and even the Steelers. I think the Browns will be a lot better. They should be. Deshaun Watson with another year and getting back in the sync. He actually gets to play the whole year, so that's good. So I think the Browns and the Ravens are the teams to beat in the AFC North. Hockey-wise, Penguins still in talks to try to get Erik Karlsson from the San Jose Sharks. It would be a really, really big trade for the Penguins. I'm not saying it's going to make them be a Stanley Cup team, but they'll probably be a playoff team. They're going to score some goals. Their power play is going to be better. I don't know what they'll have to give up, But I think it's worth the rolling the dice. You got an old core. If you're going to try to win one last time, you need a guy like that because he instantly makes you have two world-class defensemen on your blue line and a world-class power play producer, a guy who produces more points than most forwards. You'd be a fool not to try to get him if you can get him for something that's not going to cost you in the immediate future. So I'm fine with that if they decide to do it. It sounds like it's between them and the Hurricanes, so we'll keep you posted on that. As far as from a betting standpoint, I think the Penguins will take a big spike. If you think that you like the Penguins right now, you may want to jump on them. If there's a bet you're interested in making, try to bet it before they get Karlsson because their odds are going to take a severe drop as far as return price once that trade would be finalized. Karlsson makes them an instant contender to probably win the Metropolitan Division. Despite bringing back Tristan Jarry, which Sam and I talked about last week, our displeasure with that, just not really a smart move by the Penguins. But it looks like the Penguins could be an over team, making an early assumption here. Although they maybe improved a little bit with Graves on the back end, they get rid of Dumoulin. They get Karlsson. He's not the greatest defensive defenseman. So you figure a lot of goals. You figure their power play will be significantly better. So power play points, which is something that I really, really like to bet. You get great prices on those. Those will be in play heavily come October when we talk more NHL and we talk more Penguins. Okay, so let's shift over. We talked MLB. We talked about the offseason real quick about MLB. All-Star break. Obviously, we don't have much to talk about. Friday, they start back up for the rest of the season. Some teams that are hanging on the cusp of contention. We'll see in the next few weeks if they're going to make a big enough run. You got the Cardinals way out of it. Do they do anything, or are they sellers? The Mets, who played a little bit better down the stretch. The Padres, who won 2 against the Mets right before the All-Star break. I still think out of these teams who are out of or have not played well, the Yankees, the Mets, the Padres, the Cardinals, I think the Padres are probably most built to be able to have a decent second half run. Their pitching is stabilized now with Darvish, Musgrove, and Blake Snell. So they've all been throwing pretty well. Their bullpen is very good. They got Hader at the back end. Their lineup should be performing better. And if they're buyers, if they can stay in it and buy and add a piece, maybe one more bat, maybe somebody that just need to get a spark. I think the Padres are going to be live. I don't love the manager, Bob Melvin, at all. I think he's just terrible. But I think the Padres are one little jolt of momentum away from going on a nice run, and they're only 8 games out, and they don't have to win that division. No second team from the Central's getting in. In the AL East, the Braves have such a mammoth lead. You're basically playing against the rest of the AL East and your AL West teams. Your AL West right now looks like the best division top to bottom in the National League. Outside of the Rockies, every one of those teams is in playoff contention right now. So keep an eye on the Padres. They're a team that I've been kind of high on the last couple of years. I've been disappointed with them, but they did win a series last year. They beat the Dodgers in the playoffs, so they can do it again. I think they're a team you don't want to play in the playoffs. I have no fear of the Mets. I think the Mets are just terrible. Unless Verlander and Scherzer come back to their 5 years ago form very quickly. The Mets lineup stinks. It's just not good enough to win. Their bullpen is an absolute atrocity. The Cardinals, great infield. Up and down outfield, pitching staff's been their biggest problem. They're inconsistent starting. They have one great start, then 5 bad. Bullpen's not good enough. So I expect them maybe to be sellers in that division. I think Cincinnati and Milwaukee are the teams to beat there. Atlanta's running away in the East, no question about it. The Dodgers will probably win the West. Diamondbacks show some signs of fatigue, but the Giants, always a competitive team, and the Padres, I think, are all in the mix. So 4 teams out of the West. National or American League, Cleveland, I think, will end up winning the Central just because of their stability in their franchise, but they're not very good at the plate. I doubt they add much. They never really ever do. Not a believer in Minnesota. Texas Rangers showed some signs of vulnerability. Their hitters last night didn't do much in the All-Star game, which is a concern. Marcus Semien, top of that lineup, his stats are kind of fake. He's not nearly as good as his stats indicate. He's a guy that would worry me in the playoffs. I'd have him hitting 9th instead of 1st. He's a choker. He's a loser, basically. So that worries me with the Rangers. I think they got a pretty good team otherwise. And if they add a couple pieces, they had a great draft over the weekend. Got a really good player at the number 4 pick, which is hard to believe with a team that good picking 4th. Pirates, Get Paul Skeens, which is a good pick for them. That's one of the first times we'll talk about that with Sam in the third part of the show. But Pirates actually did something good for once. I don't think they'll stay in contention. I think they should be sellers. I think they should trade Mitch Keller. I think they should trade David Bednar. I know that'll be unpopular. I think they should move Sawinski, Santana, anybody that wants to take any of their catchers other than the two young guys. Any veteran on that team should be getting moved. Rich Hill should go. And then you're all in for the next 2 years. As Bob Nutting came out and said, he expects them to be a playoff team next year and to go further in 25. So that's the way I think, too. I think you got to trade. You got to move a couple pieces. Mitch Keller's not that good. He's a number 3 or 4 guy. He's being pretended to be a number 1. You got Skeens going to be a number 1, hopefully. So move these pieces while you can, get something for them. Even move Kutch, bring it back next year if you want to. Same with Bednar, trade him. Get him out of there. Get more stuff back, and then get yourself, clear that any bad payroll you have, and make a couple of acquisitions in the offseason. We talk about plenty of this on the WKKX Watchdog show each week, so check us out Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. A lot of Pirate talk. Get callers. Jarrett gives his insight. And, you pretty much have a hand on the pulse. We had Cody Duncan, a Pirate beat reporter, on last week to talk about the Buccos. He covered the draft really extensively, and you can find him on Twitter as well, and he does a pretty good job of letting you know what's going on in Bucco land. All right, shifting over to tennis right now. As I said, Wimbledon had been going pretty well. We had Novak Djokovic. We had Elena Rybakina, both in contention to win it, picks that we had given out. But Rybakina goes out today, which is sad. Like I said, Ons Jabeur just played a little better than her in the second and third sets in a really good match. So Jabeur was plus 550 entering that match right now. And then Aryna Sabalenka won the other quarterfinal as she took out Madison Keys. She was plus 210. She's probably going to dip down under $2 right now. But with Rybakina out, Sabalenka will probably be the favorite, so she may drop down into almost minus money. She will take on Ons Jabeur next, and tomorrow you have Vondrousova and Svitolina going against each other. Two underdog ladies here. Right now, Vondrousova is a slight favorite, but it's basically a pick 'em, 22.5 on the games. I'm not really going to give you a pick here because you're not going to hear it in time, but whoever wins that match is going to be a underdog in the final, no matter if Sabalenka or Ons Jabeur wins. I like Sabalenka. She's not the greatest grass player, but I'll give her credit. She's gotten a lot better, and she has had a pretty nice path to the semifinals. So I think she probably will get it done. Ons Jabeur came up short last year against Rybakina, who she beat today. So she lost in the finals to her last year and then beat her today in the quarters. So she has a chance, I would say. But Sabalenka, if she can get the job done against Jabeur on Friday, she will probably win this tournament, I would say. Men's side, Chris Eubanks gave Medvedev a great run today. I gave an over out on the radio yesterday, so hopefully you were listening to that. That was an easy over, went 5 sets. It was a good match. This Eubanks kid from the USA is going to be pretty strong. Medvedev was 11-1 entering the match today to win the tournament, and that's only because Alcaraz and Djokovic are still in there. Alcaraz took out Holger Rune in a really close match. I mean, he beat him in 3 sets, but every set was down to the wire, including a tiebreaker in the first one. So you got Alcaraz will face against, Alcaraz, I believe he may play Medvedev. I don't have it written down right here. But it'll be Alcaraz and Medvedev and Djokovic and Jannik Sinner tomorrow. Djokovic will definitely beat Sinner, and then it's going to come down to Medvedev, who's not a great grass player. Alcaraz is not a great grass player, but their talent has prevailed to this point. So you got the top 3 seeds alive in the men's side. We gave out Djokovic a few weeks ago on here and on social media. He is the guy. I don't see anybody beating him in 5 sets. It's just too hard to do. He's just stabilized and cut out for this. He rations his energy better than any player in the world in any sport I've ever seen. So he knows exactly when to go and when to hold back. And I think that'll be too much for anybody to overcome. So we'll be back in the Joker and probably Sabalenka. So a couple of the favorites there. I don't love doing that. But to me, Joker at the price that he was before the tournament, like minus 120, minus 140 is insane. He probably should have been more like minus $3 or $4. So if you're getting that around even money, it's a great bet. And hopefully you took advantage of it. But We are going to try to give you some more winners here in the second block of Bettor's Last Stand. Matt here with you solo. We will take a break now and then be back. We're going to talk some CFL. Women's World Cup starts up next week. I'm going to give you a little rundown there. Scottish Open and the Barbasol, 2 golf events this week as we get ready for the Open Championship next week. And then Big 3 basketball coming up here in the second segment. Hopefully I can do better. But I've identified a couple of things that I find interesting from a betting standpoint early on in the Big 3 season. And then we'll finish up in the third segment of the program with Sam, and we talk IndyCar and NASCAR as we are in Toronto and New Hampshire this week, way up north. It's Bettor's Last Stand here on the Pine Room Studios Network.
Reminder, Bettor's Last Stand is for informational and entertainment purposes only. All wagering activity should only be conducted by those 21 years of age or older and within the confines of federal, state, and local law. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, contact 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. You're watching Bettor's Last Stand.
All right, welcome back in. Bettor's Last Stand here on the Pine Room Studios Network on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, anywhere you listen to your podcasts. So, you had one too many Pine Room loggers after a long work week, did you? Call our friends at IC Cabs at 232-1313, 304-232-1313, or iccabs.com. You're out at the bar, knocking back a few too many Pine Room loggers. Be sure and give IC Cabs a call. They'll take care of all your transportation needs around the Ohio Valley and even further. You want to go to the airport, you want to go down to Morgantown, they got you covered. So give IC Cabs a call or flag them down out on the road and ask them how to arrange a pickup. They'll be happy to do it, and you'll be a lot safer and better off in the long run. So go see our friends at IC Cab for all your transportation needs here on the Pine Room Network with BLS. CFL, let's talk a little bit about that. Don't have a ton of opinions on this right now. You have a game on Thursday, which we won't talk about because the show will already air. Friday, Toronto at Montreal. The Argonauts minus 4.5. The total 47.5. Toronto coming off a bye. They're 3-0. Pretty strong team. I like the over here. I think some points will be scored. Montreal is okay, not bad. So I think maybe some points. So we'll go with the over 47.5 there. Saturday, double header on Saturday at 4 o'clock and at 7 o'clock. Got Winnipeg at Ottawa at 4 o'clock. The Blue Bombers minus 9. The total 44.5. The Red Blacks of Ottawa lost their quarterback, Jeremiah Masoli, for the season. They had to sign a couple of quarterbacks this week, which is going to be a problem. Winnipeg hasn't played very well the last two. They lost, and then they won a really low-scoring game last week. I will take the Blue Bombers to bounce back here. The line's probably going to go up once people start to realize that Masoli's out later in the week. So get on the Blue Bombers right now, minus the 9 on Saturday evening. The second game on Saturday evening, the Stampeders of Calgary visiting the Saskatchewan Roughriders. I like this game over the total of 44.5 at 7 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. So that, again, is the over in Toronto, Montreal on Friday night, Winnipeg minus the 9 on Saturday afternoon, and Calgary and Saskatchewan over the 44.5. I would tell you the Edmonton and Hamilton game under 42.5 on Thursday, but the show already aired, so don't worry about that, and I'll put it on social media, and hopefully you'll check it out there. Let's jump over to the Scottish Open here real quick. Got a few plays that I thought were worth a look. Double card here for golf. You get the best guys are out in Scotland getting ready for the Open Championship next week. They're playing at the North Berwick golf course there in Scotland as they prepare for the Open next week at Royal Liverpool, or Hoylake, you'll hear it called. Last time they were there, Rory McIlroy won, but a lot better field this time, so I think it should be a really good tournament. And you got the Barbasol in Kentucky with the players who aren't good enough to really play over in Scotland or the Open Championship next week. So you'll hear a lot of names you may not have seen for a while. So quickly, let's go to the Genesis Scottish Open. Some guys that I think are contenders. Tommy Fleetwood, 20-1. I think he'll be in contention. Justin Rose, a guy I've been on. You've heard me give him out a lot. I think a top 10 makes a lot of sense for him, and I would play all these guys to win as well. I wouldn't play Fleetwood much lower than 20-1. Rose around 45-1. Sahith Theegala has been having a pretty good year. He's 100-1 here. I thought that price was a little bit too high, so take a shot with him at a really big price. Has played some decent golf overseas. Matt Fitzpatrick, his game is starting to come back into form. He was the U.S. Open winner last year. I think he maybe stays in contention. If he doesn't win this week, I think maybe next week he's worth a look. 25-1, I wouldn't go much lower than that for him because, again, his game hasn't been great. Longer shots, guys that I like a little bit. Actually, I got one more guy that's a kind of a favorite. Victor Hovland, 18-1. I think he'll be very strong here. Maybe a little bit too low to play him. Aaron Rai, 60-1. Has been playing great golf lately. He'll be in contention. I think a top 20 for him makes a lot of sense. Xander Schauffele, who is the defending champ here, I wouldn't recommend to play on him, but he is the defending champion. Probably will be in contention next week. Some longer shot guys that play on the European Tour a lot that I think could be worth a shot here, and of course they're familiar with Lucas Herbert, that is. He's 60-1. Robert McIntyre, 90-1. A Scotsman himself. He's a very good player. Just waiting to break through in a good field. He's won a lot of tournaments over in Europe on the DP World Tour. And then Ryan Fox. Always you'll see his name on the Open Championship leaderboard a lot. Definitely contender here at 70-1. Eric Cole, Brian Harman, a couple other guys that I thought maybe were worth a peek over in Scotland. Coming back across to the States, the Barbasol Championship in Nicholasville, Kentucky. This was tough. Kevin Streelman, I like, 25-1. Peter Quest, 22-1. Lucas Glover's been playing pretty well. He played well last week at 20-1. Those are some of my top-tier guys. Scott Piercy, guy who had a really good year about 3 or 4 years ago. Maybe it was a little bit longer than that. But starting to get his game back after a couple injuries. I think he could be dangerous at 50-1, maybe for a top 10. Grayson Murray, ever since he had a little spat with Rory McIlroy over Live Golf, he's picked his game up a little bit. So he's at 50-1, so I think he might be worth a play. Justin Lauer, 45-1. So those are my choices of the Barbasol. Won't be paying a whole lot of attention to that, and I'll post these on social media so you can follow along. Big Three Basketball. I don't have any numbers on these yet, on the games yet, so I'll have to post them on social media. So be looking for that, BLS_PRP, or at the Pine Room Studios on Instagram and at the Pine Room Podcast on Twitter. So check them out if you want to watch Big Three. It was a good weekend. I did terrible, but the games were good. Dogs 5-1 last week in Brooklyn, so they went outright 5-1. So what I've identified here is right now, but until the odds makers like myself can adjust, the wrong teams have been favored in these games, and maybe you get the benefit of playing the dogs. If you're playing the dogs here, you're playing you're doing really well the last few weeks. Dogs have been winning outright. I think the balance of the league is the best that it's ever been. So you got 7 teams with a 2-1 record. That's the tops in the league. The Trilogy are still favored, the 2-time defending champions at plus 350. I watched their game because I had them, and they're looking a little old right now. I think they're probably very vulnerable this year, and I do not expect them to win it all again. Three-Headed Monsters 6-1, the second choice right now, but a long way to go here. Still got, I think, 3 more weeks, but I think taking dogs right now seems to be the way to go, and these dogs are winning easy. The games aren't even getting close to overs, a lot of them, and the dogs are covering the spread by about 5-6 points every time, so which is tough to do. But if you haven't checked it out yet, check it out. It's a pretty good product, enjoyable watch, and you can get in on the action. So numbers weren't posted yet. I looked at about 20 books, but that was to be expected after they got just crushed last week, I'm sure, by people. Although I don't know, maybe some pros beat them, but the general public probably would have been on most of the favorites. But I think they probably realized their numbers were very skewed and off. At least I realized that very early on Sunday afternoon. It's like, man, these numbers are not right that we've had on these games. So probably going back to the drawing board, trying to get a little more data. But I think the league is really even, so the value could be on the underdogs to this point. All right, shifting over now to soccer. I haven't talked about soccer a whole lot in the last couple of shows because Premier League and the European leagues are all done. Everybody's on breaks right now, except for the ladies as they get ready to head into the World Cup, which begins next week and next Thursday, actually. It'll be held in New Zealand and Australia. So you got a really good tournament. The Women's World Cup continues to get better. The teams are a little bit more evenly matched across the board as time has gone on. So I think the opportunity to get some value and find teams other than the United States that can win is there, and we'll try to take a shot to beat the United States. Not really politically motivated. If I thought they would win, I would still bet them. Not a big fan of all their players, most notably Megan Rapinoe, who's an absolute idiot. But I'm not going to root against my own country. But from a betting standpoint, we'll take a shot here in some spots. So let's just go through these groups really quickly. Group A, you have New Zealand, who are the co-hosts along with Australia. You got Norway, Switzerland, and the Philippines. The Philippines, first time ever in this tournament, they're going to be the doormat of this group right here, which is a pretty strong group. Norway, who is coming up in European football. They're getting better. They went 10-0 in qualifying. Their Euro showing last year wasn't as strong as they hoped, but hopefully they were just overlooking that for this, and they're going to be a little bit more focused. I think they're the -$3 favorite to win this group. I don't think that they can be challenged in the group, but I think Switzerland and New Zealand are both interesting opponents to face Norway. Norway will play New Zealand in the first game, which is a tricky spot because the home crowd is going to be behind New Zealand. They're going to be very motivated. New Zealand has never won a World Cup match, so they're going to be all out to try to win one of these, though. They're going to beat the Philippines for sure. It's then going to come down to whether them and Switzerland can get a point against New Zealand or against Norway, and then what they can do against each other. So the Swiss, I think, they're the second choice on the odds board in this group, $5 to win it. New Zealand's right about that too, about 5.5, so about 6-1 on New Zealand. This was tough. I'm picking Norway to win the group, but I thought Switzerland was worth a shot, but I can see New Zealand beating them, so I'm going to be very leery. I'm not going to bet Switzerland to finish second in this group, although I think they may. They're not. They're a good team, but they're not great, and New Zealand is going to be very motivated with the home crowd behind them. So in Group A, I'll be going with Norway, and then it's a toss-up between the Switzerland and New Zealand, and then at 250-1, the Philippines, they'll be a doormat. Probably bet overs in those matches against them and the other teams on handicaps. Let's move over to Group B. You got the other co-host, Australia, who is a -$2 favorite in this group. Canada, the second choice at 2-1. Nigeria at 33-1, and the Republic of Ireland at 16-1. Australia is the team to beat here. Canada, who won the Olympic gold medal a couple of years ago, is a pretty good opponent. Christine Sinclair is like 100 years old. She can still score from the spot. So Canada in a game that goes into penalties and extra time, I would be concerned about that. Ireland makes their first appearance. Don't expect them to do much more than be happy to be there. Probably them and Nigeria are going to make quick exits. Nigeria, though, has had some success. They've made it into round 16, I think, maybe at least once. But they're athletic enough, keep the games low scoring. So if the team is struggling to figure out a way to score off a set piece or something on Nigeria, maybe steals a point off of Canada or Australia and maybe finishes third in this group. Don't see anybody other than the Canadians and the Aussies going out of the group. So we're going with Australia and Canada in that group, but I'm probably not even going to bet Canada, but Australia will probably be a bet. All right, Group C. Costa Rica, Japan, Spain, and Zambia. Spain, a -$8 favorite here. This comes up pretty favorable, although I would not discredit Japan. Very experienced veteran team, stable, very similar to their men's team. If you don't put them away early, they can really be a thorn in your side. So look out, Spain. Spain, very talented, but Spain has some issues. They have a player strike that they're going through, like a dispute over wages with their country. Alexa Putellas, the really good scorer for them, is back. She missed the last World Cup, so they got a lot of talent, but they got some girls that are not playing because of this wage issue. So Not really sure what the mental state of Spain is. They should win this group going away, but Japan is dangerous, so I would take a shot with Japan advancing out of the group. I do like that bet. Zambia has played well in their World Cup qualifiers. They actually shocked Germany. I believe they maybe drew with Germany. They've played some big games leading up here against some good quality international competition. So I wouldn't completely rule them out, and I think they probably have a better shot of doing anything than Costa Rica, who is in their first. I believe, no, maybe it's their second trip, but nevertheless, they're not going to be a contender. Group D, China, Denmark, England, and Haiti. England minus $33 to win this group. That means you have to lay $33 to win $1. It's insane. Do not bet England. Denmark, I'm very interested in the Danes. I think that they're a team that's trending the right way. They've been a little bit inconsistent, but their striker, Pernell Harder of Chelsea, she's good enough that she can score goals for them and carry them. I think the Danes advance out of this group. They're 12-1 to win it. They'd have to beat England to be able to do that. I don't see why they couldn't. China and Haiti probably not going to put up much of a fight. I think they easily get through. So if you can find Denmark to advance out of the group at a plus price, that's an absolute must bet. It'll be hard for them not to, as Haiti and China. Haiti's first time ever here. China, they're okay, but they can't score enough to probably be able to beat these teams. So English and the Danes through in Group D. Group E, the United States. This group I thought is very tough. The United States, Netherlands, Portugal, and then you got Vietnam. So Vietnam is going to get absolutely massacred by everybody in this group. So probably overs when you're betting against Vietnam, and then probably the other team on a handicap. Now, USA is much the team to beat. We know that. They're really talented. They got a great team. They'll be very, very hard to stop in this entire tournament. The Netherlands disappointed in the Euros last year. They were the runner-up in 2019, though, against the USA. Vivian Miedema is out for them, though, their top striker, so that's a big loss. But they do have a lot of depth. Lika Mertens and some of the girls that they have are talented enough to carry them. They're just going to have to get their scoring from more spread out than just feeding it into Miedema in set pieces. So I think the Dutch are probably good enough to get out of this group. I don't know what the state of their operation is, but they're plus 250 right now to win the group. USA minus 350. You're actually got to be surprised to see USA at that good of a number. 350s in the ballpark to where you could bet it, but still too much. I wouldn't recommend it. But this is a tough group. It signifies it's a tough group. Portugal, I know a lot of people were down on them, but they're not bad. Low scoring. Keep it close. Maybe score off a set piece. They're 50-1. They're in the group. I don't think they can win the group, but they could be a problem for the Netherlands or the United States. If the USA or the Dutch don't show up against Portugal, they could drop some points and then give Portugal a shot. You each land on 4, and then you're down to goal differential. So it's whoever beats Vietnam worse. So I expect the USA and the Dutch to come out of it, but don't discredit the Portuguese in Group E. Group F, Brazil, France, Jamaica, Panama. 2-horse race here. France the favorite, minus $2. Brazil plus 150. I don't see anybody other than Brazil and France winning this group, but I just don't think it's possible. Jamaica, though, is interesting. They could play some exciting. They have exciting soccer. They have a girl from Manchester City named Kadir Shaw, and she's pretty good. She can score some goals. So, and Jamaica will be able to match these teams athletically. It's just a matter of tactically if they can hang with the France or Brazil. Brazil, not quite as talented as they have been in the past, but they're always going to have pretty solid players. This is Marta's last World Cup, the legendary all-time great for Brazil. So she'll be playing in her last one, so I'm sure they want to do well for her. France, very well-rounded, stable team, plays pretty good on both sides of the ball. So I think they're just a solid team to just advance. And I think at minus $2 is not bad. I think they're a little better than Brazil. Panama, first appearance. They're probably not going to win a game. If they score a goal, that'll be good for the Panamanians. Let's go back to, let's see, what did we skip? Group C. I didn't go through Group C yet. We were a little out of order here. Sweden. Group C, Sweden, and they're in there with Italy and South Africa and Argentina. Now, Argentina is not nearly the Argentina they are on the men's side of things. So you have Sweden at minus 550, Italy at plus $5, and then Argentina 16-1, South Africa 65-1. Sweden's always a team who seems to make it into the knockout rounds of these tournaments. They haven't been able to get the job done ever, but they've always played the USA tough. They've played a lot of other countries tough, so no reason that the Swedes couldn't win this group. But Italy's improving from a girls' standpoint, and they were strong back in 19, and they didn't play well in the Euros, so I think they'll be trying to prove something. But I think possibly South Africa can be a dark horse to maybe make some noise in there, but I just don't think it's possible. And then Argentina, like I said, not terrible, but just doesn't have enough firepower. So most likely it's going to be Sweden and Italy through. Group H, Germany, 2-time World Cup winners, and then the runner-up in Euro 22 to the English. This group is awful, and Germany benefited from this draw immensely. They have by far the easiest route out of a group. Colombia at 11-1 is the second choice. The Germans are minus $16. South Korea 18-1 to win it. Morocco 150-1. You'll just say, well, didn't you say that the English were 33-1? Well, they are, and the English will probably win their group. But I can tell you this, from top to bottom, there's no team in Group H that's as good as Denmark, who's in the English division of Group D. So top to bottom, Germany has 3 games that they absolutely should win for fun. They should be able to keep their players rested, rotate their people, and they're going to be very, very dangerous. We'll talk more about that in a couple minutes when I get to my picks to go through and advance. And then I think that was our final group, Group H. Yeah, okay. So let's go back over these again. Group A, my top play is Norway, followed by the Swiss, and I think New Zealand is a dark horse. So if you want to take a shot with an upset to get out of the group, I wouldn't recommend them winning it, but I think they could advance. Spain or Group B, sorry. Australia, the hosts, co-hosts, and Canada. It's basically a 2-horse race there. I don't see anybody else. Nigeria maybe, but Australia and Canada in whatever order you prefer. Australia minus $2, Canada plus $2. You can get a decent price on either one of them. Spain and Japan in Group C. I think the Japanese, though, are dangerous if Spain's not on their game because of those contract disputes that they're having, or wage disputes. Japan is just a prototypical professional outfit. They just come and they play the same way all the time. So I expect the Japanese to advance for sure. England and Denmark in Group D, as we said, English minus $33 to win that group. But the Danes are a up-and-coming side, and I think that the Danes could be live when we get into the knockout stage. Group E, that is the USA. I'll say the USA and Netherlands win it. Probably the USA wins the group, but the Dutch can't be discredited, and don't count Portugal out. That's, like I said, they could be a thorn in the side. Group F, France and Brazil. Don't see anybody else advancing out of that group, so we'll go with France first and Brazil to finish second. Group G, Sweden and Italy. I don't think anybody can touch either one of them. Italy possibly can't score enough to maybe the South Africa. I don't know. Argentina, they have to really play above their level to get out of that group. And then Group H, Germany, and then you pick it for the second spot. I do not know who will be able to come out between Colombia, South Korea, and Morocco. Any of those teams to me is live. I wouldn't completely dismiss Morocco from advancing. They're not going to beat Germany, but it's up for grabs there. Colombia has never really been a team that's that strong in women's soccer, so I think they've had 1 win in 7 World Cup matches, and South Korea's won once in 10. It's Morocco's first time. Maybe they're excited. Maybe they knock a team off, and that's all it takes. If they could get 1 win against either Korea or Colombia, then they're probably through, because Germany's going to smash all these teams, and then maybe if a team plays to a draw and you get in there with 3 in the second spot. So advancing into the knockout stage, I have Norway playing against Japan. I have Japan beating Norway in that matchup. I think Japan is dangerous. USA versus Italy in the first knockout phase. USA should win that game pretty easily. Then you drop down, Group C1 versus A2, Spain and whoever is A2, which I think will probably be Switzerland, but it could be New Zealand. I wouldn't count either one of them out. Spain will probably be too good for either one, so Spain advances out. Then it's Sweden and the Dutch, G1 versus E2. I think the Dutch will beat Sweden. I think the Dutch are good enough to make a little run here. Then they'll probably play Spain. In that side, I think Spain maybe gets the job done against them this time, and then USA will probably take out Japan. But I think Spain could really give USA some issues if they're clicking. By this point, if Spain has made it this far, I think they upset USA and make it to the final. On the other side, it'll be Australia in a matchup against Denmark. That's B1 versus D2. And then F1, France against H2. H2 was really tough. I'll say Morocco. Whoever it is, France is going to beat them. That would be interesting if those teams play, because France and Morocco in the men's World Cup just last year. Really good game. So France advances there, and then I think France probably plays Australia, and I think Australia makes a run out to the semifinals. Down at the bottom quadrant, D1, England against B2, Canada. Great matchup here. Highly intense game. England will get pushed, but probably just have enough to beat Canada, so we'll advance the Lionesses into the quarterfinals. And then we have down at the very bottom, Germany versus Brazil. Germany's just going to be too good for Brazil now. This Brazil team's a little bit old and used up, so we'll go with the Germans. Then the Germans beat the English. And then it's going to come down to between France and Australia. As I said, I think Australia wins that. So Australia versus Germany in the semifinal, and Germany advances to the final to play Spain on August the 20th. And Germany is the team to take home the crown of Women's World Cup. That is my pick. Germany, you can get the Germans. Right now, the Germans are probably about the third or fourth price right now. USA plus 250 favorites. Then you got Spain at 6-1. You got England at 4-1. And I think that, yeah. And then you got the Germans at around 7 to 8-1. So I think that's a great price on Germany. They're good. They're business-like. They have some good athletes on the team. They got some depth, experience. They have all the factors that you would want in a team that could make a long run. So I'm going to go with the Germans to reach the final. I thought a few of these were kind of interesting. If you like Germany like I do, you're looking at teams that would be on the left side of the bracket, because you almost have to assume Germany will take the Group H number 1 spot no matter what. So to make the final, over on the left-hand side, you have Japan, who's in the mix. If they could get by the United States, they would probably be live. You have the Dutch, who are 10-1 to make the final. Japan also 10-1 to make the final. You have Spain, who's my other finalist, at plus 275, and then you have the United States at plus 125. If you're anti-Germany and you like a team like Denmark, which if Germany wasn't going to come out of that side, then I would probably lean towards either France or Denmark. Denmark you can get at 20-1 just to reach the final. They don't even have to win. France at plus 450. So those are my picks for the Women's World Cup. I'll be putting these on Twitter next week as we get ready for the matches to start on Thursday. And then I'll be giving you some match-by-match games that I like a little bit too. And in the first wave of games, just off the top of my head, I think New Zealand will score some goals against Norway. So I would bet New Zealand to score. That'll probably be maybe a plus price. You can get over a half against a pretty good Norway team. Australia, play them on the handicap against Ireland. Those are on Thursday, Friday matches. This is next week, remember. The 20th is when this World Cup kicks off. Switzerland and the Philippines, over 3. If you could get that right now, get on it. I think the Swiss will score 4 at least themselves. Costa Rica and Spain. Spain probably on the handicap there. They're going to be very tough to beat for a Costa Rica side who may have trouble getting the ball across midfield. Vietnam and the USA, that's got to be an over. USA is going to pump in a lot of goals against Vietnam. 6 is the total right now. I'd probably continue to play it till it got up till probably where it was about 7. If you can get it before it gets to 7, I would do that. On Saturday, Japan and Zambia. Japan, I like Japan in Zambia. Zambia is athletic. They played a couple of good quality teams in their qualifying round, and they played those games under. Low scoring. They're going to defend. They're going to try to score off set pieces. Japan will match tactics with anybody, and they're athletic. So I like this game under 3.5. I think that's way too high. Haiti and England, like that game over 4.5. The English will probably score 6 themselves on Saturday. And then the final game on Saturday, the Danes of Denmark and China. Like Denmark here. I think they'll probably take care of business, play them minus -0.5 or minus 0.75 on the Asian handicap if you prefer to get a better price. Sweden and South Africa on Sunday. I think Sweden will take care of business there, but you have to lay a huge price. So probably on the handicap, lay it with the Swedes, and then the Dutch and the Portuguese. If you can find this total around 3, I think the under is a great bet. Netherlands will try to feel people out. They have some really high scoring type players on their team, but they know Portugal is a really good defensive team. So maybe 1 goal in this game. I think it's a really good matchup though early, and it will dictate a lot of how that group ends up. On Monday, Germany and Morocco. Germany lay the goals against Morocco. They're going to score a bunch against them, probably an over 4-2 if you can get it. And then Brazil against Panama. Brazil probably going to take advantage of Panama. The Brazilian experience will show here. I don't think they're talented enough to do much else, but they will beat Panama. So those are my picks for the Women's World Cup. And before we get ready to bring Sam on here in the next segment, we'll jump over to a few news and notes here in the second segment of Bettor's Last Stand as we get you ready for a interesting week. We got a lot of things on the docket as we head towards football season. A couple of bad beats that I want to go over. Adley Rushman, if you had him in the first round of the Home Run Derby the other night against Luis Robert, man, he comes out, he hits 27, I think, and then Robert just is incredible and beats him. So Rushman doing it from both sides of the plate. Impressive display for him. He was plus 180. I had him. I thought he was going to be in good shape, and then they kind of jinxed him. Everybody just assumed he won, and then Robert comes out and says, not so fast, and wins that. Randy Arozarena had him to win it outright at 10-1, 10-11-1. Vlad Jr. gets him in the finals, about plus $3.50 for him. So not the greatest finals, but I think these guys get so exhausted. I was impressed with Arozarena. It was exactly the kind of performance I would have thought he would have. He's a big game type guy, very good under pressure, and performed very well under pressure. So had a good night there, had Randy over, had him in the first round, and had him to make the final. So profitable night, and as I said, had the game under every which way in the National League last night. So a pretty good couple of days of baseball for me. And then in NASCAR, I mentioned this earlier when we talked to Sam about it. If you had Blaney or Cindric or Buescher or Elliott or Hamlin, all these guys had really good cars last Sunday night at Atlanta, and then the rains came. And everybody knew it was coming. So you're timing it out, and a caution came out about 12, 15 laps before the rains got there. So you had to decide whether you were going to stay out or you were going to go in and pit and say, all right, everybody's going to pit enough that we're going to have enough time before, maybe it'll be 20 laps before the rain gets here, and that'll be enough time for us to, jockey for position and get where we need to go. Well, a lot of guys stayed out, and the top pack all pitted, which included the guys I mentioned, Blaney, Cindric, Buescher, Elliott, Hamlin, etc. It didn't turn out well for them. The guys who stayed out all hung on. Their tires lasted long enough. They only had to go 10, 15, I can't remember the exact amount of laps, but they lasted. We were just waiting and waiting and waiting, and you kept seeing that radar, and it's like, oh, no. If Byron and this group has to pit before that rain gets here, then it swings back to the guys who did pit with the advantage, but it didn't happen. The guys who stayed out and gambled won. And William Byron, who had an issue early in the race, but he had a really good car. So, he probably was a worthy winner, but he definitely needed that luck to stay with that pack and stay out and when the rest of the guys pitted up front to get the track position, and he benefited from it. So winner for William Byron, and he leads the league in wins this year, and he's just been exceptional for Hendrick Motorsports, and we'll see if he can keep it rolling. BetMGM reported the 40% increase in the betting of women's sports, WNBA, LPGA, women's tennis, women's soccer, on and on, which is really cool. But you're seeing a lot of women get into the betting industry, whether they're influencers or actual handicappers, and that's really cool to see. We've had Lauren the Bettor on this show a couple of times, had her on the podcast. Got a couple other things cooking with some other girls that are in the industry too that we're going to try to talk to. I think it's great. I think it's great to get girls' opinions on these things and grow the industry more and more and more. So if you know a lady that's starting to get interested in sports betting, send her over into Bettor's Last Stand. We love to have, and give us a feedback. Contact at thepineroom.podcast.com. Be happy to hear from any of our lady listeners, and call the show. Call our show on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday on the Watchdog hotline, 304-214-1600. We love to chat with anybody that has thoughts about any of our shows here on the Pine Room Studios network. Ohio became the first state to pass legislation that explicitly addresses the issues of betting-related threats towards athletes, coaches, and referees. They had an issue with Dayton, people threatening people because they lost bets. Ohio's putting it in. It's going to be a criminal act. You're going to get fined. You're going to get prison time possibly, which is just nuts. And which you're nuts to do that, but then it's nuts to give people prison time for verbal threats. That part is, I'm in the middle on this. I don't think people should do this, and I think they should be banned from betting. That's easy. Cut them off. They're not allowed to bet with illegal regulators, which they would have that penalty. But jail time's a little bit sketchy. You're on the grounds of stopping people's free speech. So let's hope they don't get crazy with this. But I agree with stopping them, fining them. I'm good with that. West Virginia also is planning to have a bill similar to combat this issue. So interesting stuff there. Kentucky's adding an emergency legislation to prohibit misleading sports betting advertising. So you see these ads on every single channel, all up and down the dial. Everywhere you turn, you got somebody telling you how easy it is to hit a same-game parlay. I'll sit here and tell you right now, I work in the industry. I also bet. It's not easy. So don't listen to these people. It's fun. You should do it for amusement. Throw a couple bucks on something. Maybe you hit big. Maybe you don't. But unless you really want to put the time in and handicap these things, I wouldn't recommend betting large amounts unless you're prepared to lose large amounts. So Kentucky is feeling that there's too many false promises out there to make it look easy. So I get where they're coming from. But again, you're protecting these people's speech is protected. They're not saying anything that's completely false. It's embellished is what I would call it. So be cautious, but no need to panic. Barstool Sportsbook shuts down for 72 hours. They're actually shut down right now. They're overhauling their entire platform. So if you're looking for the Barstool app right now, it should be back up by Friday morning for MLB. But they chose the right window to do it. But man, these books have got to figure out different ways of doing this. They were with a brand called Kambi, which is a huge Kambi, huge provider for sportsbook apps out there across Europe and across the world. But they're going to go their own in-house operation as they now owned by Penn National. I'm sure they have plenty of money to pay tech people to make an app like this, and it's quite a undertaking to build these apps. It's been involved in the front end of it several times now, and it's something to see. So hopefully they get it up and going. NFL's expanding its watch and bet campaign this season with partnership with Genius Sports, who's they're a statistical provider. They're also a odds making provider too, which I currently have a partnership with them for the time being. They're a trading team that out of Europe and South America that will assist sports books for overnight monitoring and things like that when you don't have people in the office. Can't be there every single hour, so they're on call for that. But the bettors will now be able to access low latency feeds for from participating sportsbook. To make it easier for them to track in-game betting. So this is a nice thing to have. And if you're not familiar with the term with the low latency, that means the less delay. So, you're on DirecTV, you got a 30-second delay from actually, like, if you were in the stadium. You got Comcast, it's 20 seconds. You got streaming, it's 50, 45. I mean, the Super Bowl this year was up over a minute at times. So, big problem for the sports betting world if you're counting on those streams. If you're betting live, try to get these low latency feeds. You can see them on a lot of the books that are adding them. You're getting them basically tapped right in. It's not the greatest quality, but it doesn't matter. You just need to know what's actually happening. And then another trick that I use too, especially in college sports, go to the college sports websites of the teams. If Stony Brook's playing, Marist in basketball, go to the home team's site and go on their live stat feed. It's going to be 5-6 seconds at the least faster than any type of video that you would have. And if it's a stream, it's 30 seconds faster. So if you're betting that stuff in game, be sure you get a source that you can get actual time, situation, down and distance in football. You want to know what's going on. You can't just bet blindly. It's a huge mistake because the books have you by the balls, literally. You can't trust them. They're going to take advantage of you. If they got 30 seconds ahead of you or more, they're gonna beat you every time. So be aware of that and be very cautious. Horse racing, Saratoga opening this week, really cool. The best racing there is. This is the best time of year for horse racing as far as the regular cards go, not Breeders' Cup obviously or Triple Crown races, but Saratoga opening tomorrow. Be going through the entire month of July and August, and then you got Del Mar, which starts up next Thursday. So coast-to-coast racing, incredible cards, really good action, and great prices to be had. All right, let's jump over to AFL very quickly before we get Sam on the show this week. We had a really good week in AFL last week. I think I said we went 5. No, we were 10-5, so 10-5, really good week. On Thursday night, it's Western and Sydney. Doesn't really matter. You missed the game already, but I like the game under 164.5. I'll post that on Twitter. Friday, early morning, Melbourne and Brisbane. Again, this probably won't be up by then. I like the game. I like Melbourne, the Demons at home. Minus the 4.5 in the total under 164.5. Friday night. This will be late Friday night, 11:45 Eastern Time. The Fremantle Dockers at the Collingwood Magpies. Magpies are the top team in the league right now as far as the division ladder goes. They're laying 40.5 at home. The total 159.5. Fremantle is not very good. I think Collingwood probably beats them pretty easily. So we'll go with the Magpies. I don't love laying 40.5, but we will go with them. Saturday morning, late Friday night. Get your ride home from IC Cab around 12:10 a.m. on Friday. Actually, technically Saturday a.m. You got the St. Kilda Saints visiting the Gold Coast Suns in a big showdown here. St. Kilda continues to drop after their great start to the season. They're just not that good. They have won 8 straight in this series, but they're catching 12.5 here against Gold Coast. Gold Coast fired their coach this week. I expect the Suns to come out ready to go, laying the 12.5. I'll be taking the Suns and also have a bet on them to make the top 8, which is the finals. 9-1 right now. We gave that out earlier in the year. I think it was 8-1 preseason. You can get 9-1 now. I like their schedule, how it shapes up. I think they have 6 winnable games left, and I think they have a really good chance. And St. Kilda is a team I think that are dropping. So this match is really big for the final 8. You could probably make a case that 6 of the 8 teams are pretty much finalized, but 2 spots to be had, and I think Gold Coast is going to be good enough to take one of those. All right, let's move on. 2:35 a.m. later that evening, Friday evening, actually Saturday morning, Port Adelaide visits Carlton. The Power are really good, and they're only laying 7.5 on the road. We will take the Power, and I think they absolutely bury Carlton. Essendon and Geelong. This is 5:25 a.m. Saturday morning matchup. Geelong showing some signs of improvement, but man, the Bombers impressed me. They're a stable team. I think this will be a tough game for Geelong. I like the game over 168.5, so we'll go with that over in Essendon, Geelong. GWS and Adelaide. The Crows hosting the Giants, 5:40 a.m. on Saturday morning. The Crows are minus 16.5 at home. The total 174.5. This is a tricky one. GWS has impressed me. Both these teams are 8-8, pretty evenly matched. I think I like GWS to cover the 17 or 16.5. But I like the Crows to probably win the game. I think this is a really tight one. So maybe if you can get Crows to win by between 1 and 39, take that, and then you play back and you take the Giants plus around 17. I do like the over a lot in this game, 174.5. I think there'll be a lot of points scored there, and Adelaide scores a lot of points at home, so that should be beneficial. Hawthorn at North Melbourne. This is a Saturday night, 11 o'clock Eastern Time kick. It'll be on one of the Fox networks. North Melbourne, 2-14. Hawthorn, 4-12. 2 bad teams here. Hawthorn's lost 4-6. North Melbourne, the Kangas have lost 14 in a row. But I'm going to go with the Roos here. I think they maybe at home. This is a game that I think both of these teams will really want to win because they're both pretty bad, and this will be their last chance to win. So we're going to go with the Kangaroos, but maybe they cover the spread. Maybe they win the game at plus 150 on the money line. But I do like it under, too. Normally, you would think both these teams, they surrender a lot of points. They're not that great on defense, but I think they'll have extra focus and really think, hey, we got a chance to win this week, which doesn't happen very often if you're a North Melbourne Kangaroo fan or a Hawthorn Hawk fan. So we'll go under. That's my strongest play there, 170.5 in that one, and I will take the Roos plus the 12.5. And then the final game, Sunday morning, 2:40 a.m., the Richmond Tigers, 41.5 point road favorites against West Coast. In the total 173.5. So West Coast was an 83-point dog last week against Brisbane. Couldn't quite get there with Brisbane. We also missed the under or the over by a couple of points. So that one, we would have actually had an even better week if we could have got that one to cash. But now they've readjusted. They put that thing at 80. A couple weeks ago, I told you they'd lose by 100. They did. The lines were in the 50s. Then they went to the 80s. That was probably a little too extreme. That line last week probably should have been in the high 60s or 70s. So now they readjust down to 41.5. Now Richmond has not been as good, but they're at least able to score points, and West Coast isn't going to stop anybody. So I'm going to lay it with the Tigers, 41.5. I don't think that's enough points. I think they'll win this game by 65 minimum, and the total I think is 173.5. I think that's too low, so we're going to go with the Tigers and over on Sunday morning. All right, that does it for the second round of Bettor's Last Stand. We'll be back with a third segment with Sammy the Man from Upper St. Clair. We're going to talk about some racing, get his opinions on the Pirates, the All-Star Game, Home Run Derby, all that good stuff. It's Bettor's Last Stand here on the Pine Room Studios Network. Matt with you. We will be right back.
Reminder, Bettor's Last Stand is for informational and entertainment purposes only. All wagering activity should only be conducted by those 21 years of age or older and within the confines of federal, state, and local law. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, contact 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. You're watching Bettor's Last Stand.
All right, welcome back in Bettor's Last Stand. Matt and Sam with you here on a rather warm Wednesday afternoon here. Lots of road crews out. Sam had some issues getting home from work. Fortunately, he's able to make it and join us here on time. Sammy, how are we doing today?
Matt, you hit the nail on the head. It is hot as hell outside today.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm great.
Good. You got the Atlanta Braves rocking the best team in baseball today. National League in the win column last night.
Yeah. Mitch Keller gave up a dinger. That's always good on the national stage.
Yeah, old Mitch. Typical Pirates performance. But, good National League and under for people that had that. I was on the right side of that, actually, so it was a pretty good night. What were your thoughts on the game and the Home Run Derby from Monday?
The Derby, it's lost its luster for me.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, I couldn't get enough of it. I was tuned into every swing. You don't see these balls land now. It's just how many can you get off in a row?
Right.
The Derby's lost its luster for me. But I think it'd be great if they let players rob home runs.
Yeah.
Like they should have all-stars out there. Like if you rob the home run, it's -2.
How about that? Garrett Cole has two balls that should have been doubles in the first inning that guys had to make catches against the wall to stop, that could have turned the whole game differently. But some decent defense actually in the game. But yeah, I agree. Did you see that kid get hit in the face? That little kid, geez, that's
brutal,
dangerous.
Yeah, totally dangerous. And then there's people that say, "Oh, let him use metal bats in the home run derby." You're really gonna kill a kid.
People that'll literally kill fans. Anywhere in the stadium would be up for grabs for death if that was the case. But geez, that's like be going back to the Roman Colosseum days. You start doing things like that. They'll be having the hearse will be right outside the stadium to take people. That could be
seriously
pretty bad. But interesting weekend week start of the week in baseball. So we got a few days off, and we'll get back into that on Friday. All right, so let's get over to racing. Man, our picks in Atlanta, everything went sideways when none of our guys stayed out. 2 weeks in a row we have excitement in the race. I will say that. The rain adds excitement in its own way from Chicago and then in Atlanta. Give me your thoughts on the race. What do you think? Byron obviously had a good car anyway. He had some bad luck early and then benefited by staying out for the track position. But what were your thoughts on the Atlanta race on Sunday evening?
Matt, I thought it was an awesome race. For what they had going on, it was awesome. I couldn't believe it. And of course, the rain had to ruin it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that countdown to when it was going to come was actually fun. That was it was like putting the race in like a pressure cooker or something and seeing how quick before it exploded. It was like, how long are they going to make it? Because a few more laps and those guys that stayed out would have had to go in, and then it shifts back to our guys who all pitted. But I don't know.
Some of those lap totals of since you pitted were so high for some of those drivers. Like Byron led the last 19 laps, and that's it.
Yes.
Like Allmendinger's in third in a Cup Series race. That's just unheard of, Matt.
Yeah. It was an upside down top 10, that's for sure. Just not. I mean, almost looked like a Talladega, but I guess you could say because Atlanta's trying to be like that now, being a super speedway type track. But it wasn't because of the racing on the track; it was because of some strategy involved as well. But yeah, I agree. Back to back, 2 weeks in a row of NASCAR and NBC, they got to be feeling pretty good putting these races in prime time, and they've turned out to be pretty good both times. We'll see what happens this week as we head up to to the Crayon 301 up in New Hampshire. What a name. You texted me the other day about that. It's like, geez, you got bowling at the Glen, you got the Crayon race. I mean,
it's just weird to me. It's like not the Crayola Crayon 301, just Crayon. It's like the Pencil 301. Like, what?
Yeah, right. What? Yeah, the lead pencil 301. New Hampshire's a track though. I don't mind it. It's decent. I don't have anything too negative to say about it. Last year, Chris Bell gets the job done. Chase Elliott ran well. Just who are you looking? Is there anybody that sticks out? I thought this was a little bit tough of a race to pick. I thought there was a lot of contenders. What did you think? Yeah,
it was tough. I got a lot of people written down, but the two that I feel like these are top fives, not guaranteed, but that's what my gut's telling me is Brad Keselowski and Denny Hamlin. Those two names are the two. I just kept seeing them. The laps led, qualified, where they were throughout the races in the past couple of years. I like them. And then for the winner, I have a tough time deciding between Bell, Busch, and Chastain.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I had all those guys penciled in on mine. I think Chastain's a great value. I think just with his his team. I mean, he's always going to be strong, and I think his history at this track has been pretty good. He's only been I think 4 times, 2 times with the new car. I think I definitely think he was the most enticing to me because of his odds. I thought Chris Bell's odds are too short, like plus $5, $5.50. Like, yeah, he won last year. He's a contender all the time. I just don't want to take a price on a guy at $5.50. I thought Kyle Busch at 10-1 was interesting as well. But I agree with you. Keselowski and he and Buescher were both running great last week too. So they got some confidence going right now. They just had bad luck with them deciding to pit, but they were definitely contenders. I think Keselowski at 20-1 is worth a shot, and I agree. I think a top 10 for him is a really, really strong bet. I thought Truex, who's been strong here in the past, who hasn't ever won, but he's been in contention. Logano, again, we say it every week. He's starting to get overpriced.
Where is he? Where is he?
But he's got to show up one of these weeks. Like, he just can't put it all together. And then my longer shot guy, I liked Eric Almirola. He's run pretty well here in the past, 22-1. Take a shot with him. And then guys that I think will just be stable bets, probably top teners. Chase Elliott, he was running pretty well last week till late. And then Kevin Harvick, both at 12-1. I think both of those guys will be in contention. Elliott's got to get a win here. He's getting down to where he has to win. So you may see some gambles from him that you wouldn't normally see to try to steal one. But is there any chance he or Harvick can win this race?
I think Harvick has a better chance than Elliott. Just because, Harvick's not the last ride. He's given up, but it's like he's got nothing to lose. He's here for a long time. Something about Elliott, this year, he's just been weird. That little injury literally just threw a wrench in all of it.
His entire season has just been a disaster. I mean, from one sense to another, with the injury and and then he gets suspended, and then it's like, man, you're just, I don't know. He'd still probably be the most popular driver at the end of the year. But, I'd like to see a little more consistency out of him. I feel like he was starting to get it together. Harvick, he's probably safely in the playoffs anyway, just because he's always just so consistent and he'll point his way in there. But, I'd like to see him get a win. What about Ryan Blaney? He started to show some signs of staying in contention. He's always really in the mix. He just kind of gets forgotten about. I think he maybe not a winner this week, but I think he could have another strong run. What say you?
Yeah, I had him on there with a question mark. The one win was great, and it made me a bigger fan of picking him, but just I feel like you get the one, and then it's like, all right, here we go again.
40 races.
Not going to win a race. Right. How many races is it going to be until we start hearing the when's Blaney want to race again.
Right. No,
so I'm iffy. I'm kind of off on Blaney right now.
Yeah, I probably will be too as far as winning until the playoffs come. And I think maybe he gets re-inspired. Daniel Suarez starting to show maybe some signs of improvement. His beginning season was awful. He's ran decently here at New Hampshire in the past. Could you expect a decent run out of him again this week?
I would say yes, and here is why. I'm looking at the standings right now. Daniel Suarez is 15th in the playoff standings at 407 points. Michael McDowell is tied at 16 with 407, and then 17th is Bubba Wallace at 404. So it is a tight little race here at the bottom.
Yes.
Like, honestly, it's Keselowski, Buescher, Suarez, McDowell. Those are the bottom four, and really Suarez and McDowell are going to be fighting for the last two spots.
Yeah, no, I agree with
that. So he needs to run well.
Yeah. Extra motivation for those teams to put together some point finishes to try to win some stage points that they're going to need. Bubba Wallace ran well here last year, finished third. So you got some guys who are on the cusp, like you just mentioned, Bubba, Keselowski, Suarez, McDowell not so much. He has not really run well here. And then you got Elliott, obviously, who needs the win. So you got a lot of storylines in play as we head to New Hampshire. Any other dark horse candidates? And there wasn't. I mean, let me ask you this question: have we come to the point where me and you have to change our thinking that Joey Logano might not be the best driver, that William Byron might actually just be the best driver right now?
Yeah, honestly, it was, because Logano was coming out of the season hot.
Yeah,
he was, and then all of a sudden, there's nothing. There's no life. There's nothing to him. And Byron is just every week. The Hendrick cars, honestly, every week it seems like there's one of them. Yep. They just find a way, man.
Yeah.
Rick Hendrick finds a way.
And we haven't even mentioned Kyle Larson. The last tracks aren't necessarily his strong suits, but there's no reason why he couldn't run well at New Hampshire. He's not much of a super speedway guy. That's why I say, like, maybe William Byron, just a little bit of a nod over him because he can do it at all the tracks versus Larson. Larson's probably the best there is on some of the shorter tracks and the road course type tracks. But what a problem to have at Hendrick. You got Elliott, your main ace, having a bad year. You got Bowman, who was hurt a lot, who did start the year off very good, and then got hurt and then hasn't come back up to speed. Although I thought he would run a little better last week. He had some bad luck. But then you got two guys who are serious championship contenders. If you were to put odds on the championship right now, those two guys are right there, Larson and Byron. So a lot to unpack as we move forward. It's amazing that we're getting to the point where we're going to be starting to talk about playoffs in this. It seems like we just talked about Daytona, and now we're getting down to where these teams have to start to gamble and make some headway, or they're going to be on the outside looking in. So should be very exciting. Any last thoughts on the Crayon 301 before we switch over to open wheel?
Man, it's my first ever Crayon 301. I am looking forward to it.
Yes. All right. We'll try to draw the people a nice, colorful picture and
I'll go get a pack on Friday.
We're gonna color the cars green for all the money that we're gonna win. So, all right. Let's jump over to let's recap a little bit about Formula One. They're off this week. We go to the Hungarian Grand Prix next weekend. British Grand Prix was last week. Max Verstappen just dominates the race again. Lando Norris, though, he's been a Lando Norris sighting. He's alive. He leads 4 laps, finishes second. Oscar Piastri in the top 4.
I know.
I was like, whoa! Like if you could have got odds on that, that'd have been a hell of a payout. If you could have had him to finish in the top 6, that'd have been a nice price because he hasn't even sniffed basically a points finish the whole season.
Nope.
Thoughts on the race overall? Obviously, Red Bull too good, but is McLaren here to stay? Do they make some strides?
Matt, they were awesome. Like, McLaren, honestly, was awesome. They were better than everybody. I mean, they were better than Red Bull, but Red Bull is better than McLaren, so it's just, they don't really have a shot. But it was everything that we've talked about, that Zach Brown's talked about. Whenever he goes to the media, he's always talking about McLaren and this talent and all this. It was a thing of beauty.
Finally showed up. Oh, we did allude last week that we thought Lando, the British guys would run well, and he definitely did, but he needed the car under him, and it finally showed up. Do you think that they figured something out, or was it just the track suited them, or do we expect a drop off in a couple of weeks?
I regretfully I expect a drop off.
Yeah.
But Piastri is my favorite. I put him in my bottom feeders. He's a bottom feeder driver. Him and Ricciardo are my bottom feeders that I love right now. Yeah. I couldn't believe, Matt, he only lost one position.
Right. Yeah. No, I know it's hard to believe. He held up well. And speaking of Daniel Ricciardo, he takes over for Nick DeVries. Thoughts on that change?
I love it.
Yeah, smart.
I absolutely love it. It is a smart move, and who else were they going to replace him with? Another F2 driver, F whatever. I saw the name. I don't even know the kid's name. He kind of looked like Drago, like from Rocky.
Yeah,
but
Russian or from somewhere.
He looked Russian. But I think it's great. What other option do they have? That team stinks.
Yeah.
That rebrand next year is going to help them, but hopefully they can just get a couple top tens.
So where do we see Nick DeVries now? Is he going to be begging on the side of the road, or is his career done? And now I'm assuming F1 it's all over. But then again, did he have really a chance with that team anyway? Probably not.
No, I think he'll be racing with Antonio Giovinazzi. Probably winning titles. And
24 hours Le Mans. Well, any other thought? Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, solid runs. Fernando Alonso not his best, but he still had a pretty solid year. I think he's been in the points almost every race this year. So observations on Mercedes. Are they going to get surpassed now by McLaren? Or
I hope.
Yeah.
I hope so. I think that I'm sick of Lewis Hamilton. I'm not sure what it is about him.
Yeah, he's kind of run his course. I agree with that.
Get sick of him. And I think Lance Stroll absolutely stinks.
Yeah, he's bad.
It's the luckiest driver. You thought Nick DeVries was lucky. Lance Stroll is lucky that his dad owns Aston Martin.
Yeah, no, he is. He's pretty bad. He really underachieves. I mean, you see the difference in him versus Fernando Alonso in the same car. I mean, it's definitely a noticeable difference of a drop off of driver talent. And then let's talk about another disappointing team, Ferrari. They need a complete overhaul. They're probably, if you put, I'd love to see, like, if they should do this like as an exhibition event. They should let Verstappen drive a Ferrari and see what he does with it, or whatever, like switch drivers out, because I think that their cars are probably a little better than what these guys are making them be as far as finishing results.
Yeah, they're definitely the most disappointing team. I mean, they are again. Yeah. Last year they ran well, but they had like technical issues.
Right. Because they were like
this
contenders.
Year, they just
now
have issues.
Yeah, they have issues and they can't even contend.
Yeah, I think Sainz, I don't want to say he's got to go, but I definitely think he's the weak link out of those two.
Yeah. I think a guy has some talent, but he seems maybe he got a maturity issue. I don't know. But yeah, trouble at Ferrari. When you got Williams finishing ahead of both your cars, that's probably a sound the alarms. And it wasn't like you DNF'd either. Like you were actually running and they were beating you. So I think some tough times, some tough choices for a few of these teams. But McLaren maybe has it ironed out to the point where they have some positivity going into the rest of the season, and we could see some good strides taken by them, but once again, it's Red Bull's everything to lose, as usual.
I'd love to point out also, Matt, the double Alpine exit. You got to love when both those cars have reliability issues and they can't finish a race.
Yeah, that's a great price, people, if you want to hunt for that one. Oh, my. Yeah, Pierre and Esteban. It's a rough one. So your boy Ocon just, trouble.
He's struggling.
Somebody didn't have a hose tighten. Like, what are you doing, man?
Seriously.
You got 95 mechanics and somebody missed that. Oh, well. But F1 off this week. We'll be in Hungary next time, so we'll talk more about that next week on BLS. All right, and then let's conclude our racing segment with some IndyCar. The IndyCars were off. Last week, we got Alex Palou going for 4 in a row and like a chokehold on the championship as they head to Toronto. Scott Dixon, defending champion here. Does Palou just keep winning? Do we see any chinks in the armor of him and the Chip Ganassi team?
I kind of hope he doesn't keep winning because I love the competitiveness of IndyCar, but it actually is pretty awesome what he's doing. It's a lot different than a Max Verstappen domination because they're still close. There's still a chance,
right? If
he screws up or something, that somebody else could come and take the lead. But man, he has been pretty awesome this year.
Yeah, he has been. I didn't expect this. I mean, we talked at the beginning of the year, and even when we talked extensively about Indy and Indy 500 and just there's so many drivers that could win week in and week out. For him to be able to rattle off like several in a row and like 4 out of 5, like that's pretty impressive. That says a lot about him and his team. Obviously, he's got a great team, but he's actually digging in and getting the job done. A lot of times you have a car that can win, but you need luck. You need all kinds of things to go right. So full credit to him. As we head into Toronto, he was 6th here last year. As I said, Dixon won. Colton Herta was in the top 3. Rosenquist, Ray Hall, Erickson, the top 5. Who are you looking at here this week?
I got Dixon. Dixon is in there.
Yep.
Rosen. And I have Scott McLaughlin in there as well.
Okay.
I think he's been coming on stronger these last couple races. He was 5th last week. And Matt, I have a question mark next to this guy's name, and I got to get an opinion.
Okay.
Bobby Rahal. The Rahal team. What are we feeling this week for?
Well, I mean, Graham was 4th last year in this race. I mean, he led 6 laps. I mean, there's been a lot of, it's like between him and Herta and like they're I don't know. It's like these guys are just living off their dad's name still or something.
I know, but like last week, Ray Hall had that great run and he fucked the pit stop up.
Where's
so
it
it's
come from?
All right.
Yeah, no.
Where does it come from?
I think he carried momentum into this race from there. I like him. I would definitely be looking at him for a top 5 if I can find that priced somewhere. Definitely. Rinus VeeKay led 18 laps here last year. Any thoughts on him? He just can't. He can't put it together. I don't think he can probably win, but maybe a top 10 if he's lucky.
I know. I thought about it.
Yeah,
thought about it.
How about Pagenaud or Newgarden, O'Ward? Any of those guys excite you? Erickson?
O'Ward excites me out of all of them. It just seems like he never gets it done.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, he always seems like he has a car that's loaded and like he's like, all right, you're waiting for him to make a move, and it just never happens. Obviously, in Indy, he tried and it didn't work out very good for him.
I know.
But, Felix Rosenquist, he ran well here last year. I may lean towards him, but I like your pick of Ray Hall for at least the top 5. I think think about this. Once you get some momentum going, some confidence, if your car equipment can hold up, these guys are a very deep colony of drivers, so you could see some serious, keep the ball rolling type stuff with him. So I think any long shots interest you? Anybody that's under the radar, maybe sneak into the top 10?
I looked at this guy's making me sick. Like Roman Grosjean.
Yeah.
And every time I'm on his bandwagon, he just fucks up.
Yeah. I'd like to pick him too. I'd like to think like his overall driving experience would help him sometime, but it's like, yeah, you're right. There's always some kind of blunder or some mistake that he makes that you can't get over. I don't know. I like Dixon, but man, Dixon, he's getting close to being done too. I mean, I
know.
Sadly, I mean, he's had a great career, but I mean, he went from kind of dominating a race here and there to he's still good, but can we see a big performance out of him to the point where he can outdo Palou? I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. The Iceman's being weird this year. Yeah. There's just something's not right.
I agree with that.
He's got a win by now.
Yes.
Nothing.
Yes. Yeah, nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
Hasn't even sniffed it really, but
no.
I don't know. We'll see. Should be a pretty competitive race. I mean, you had 5 or 6 different leaders last year, so I'd expect a pretty good battle up front. Just you had only 4 cautions too, so a lot of steady race time, and we'll see. I don't know. What do you like this track? I'm not super wild about it. I think it's okay.
I'm not a big fan of it. It seems like every time they race in Canada, it sucks.
Yeah. Sadly,
I'm not a big fan. It does suck.
Yeah, because I mean, like Montreal and stuff like in F1. I would like those to be better races, but yeah, it doesn't ever seem to turn out like that. But we shall see. Any closing thoughts on any of the racing circuits or anything else sports wise? What's on your radar this week other than racing?
Matt, what's on my radar is since baseball's second half of the season is getting started, where are you thinking AL, NL, MVP odds? Who are you liking, not liking?
Well, to me, AL is as simple as if Ohtani stays, he's getting it. If he goes, then
Adley.
Then he's in the mix. Rushman's in the mix. No. You called that like months ago. He's in the mix if that happens, especially if they keep playing the way that they have been. There's no reason to see that they won't. They may be a little bit of a buyer at the trade deadline too, and the Rays are starting to show that they're a little dressed up, good at home. I mean, even they're losing some home games here leading into the break. They could be a little vulnerable. The Orioles play them here in a series early, coming back out of the break down in Tampa. So a 4-game set, which is going to be huge. If Rushman can do some damage there and Ohtani gets traded, I do. I think that's a live ticket. NL wise, to me, it's Ron Acuna is probably going to have it locked up if he doesn't get hurt, just because they're going to be the best team in baseball right now, and they're pulling away from everybody in that division. So I think it'll be hard to catch him. But I'm trying to think of another guy. I mean, maybe somebody from the Dodgers. I mean, you can make a case, I guess, for Betts or Freeman, but they would have to have a really, really big second half of the season to track down Ronald Acuna, at least what I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if he gets anywhere between 70 and 80 stolen bases,
yeah,
it's a wrap.
Exactly.
Total wrap.
Let me ask you this. Out of the teams who have underachieved heading into the All-Star break, most notably the Padres and the Mets and the Cardinals, do you see any of those teams? And if so, which one do you think is most likely to stabilize to the point where they can make the playoffs?
I hate to say this. I want to say the Cardinals.
Just because the division is gettable?
Yes, and it won't even... They could be playing okay baseball, and then like the Cubs and Pirates, all they need to do is play bad baseball, or like the typical baseball they play. Yeah. And the Cardinals are going to be fine.
Yeah. No, I mean, they're definitely in the mix because of that division. It depends on what the Reds keep doing, if they can keep it up. I don't have any faith in Milwaukee. Cubs are just probably not ready yet, and the Pirates, I just don't see any way they're going to contend. I thought maybe the Padres, just because their starting pitching is starting to kind of come together, and their bullpen's good. But their lineup is disappointed so badly. I don't know if they overcome it. If they get going, I think they could. They're only 8 out. They could maybe sneak in. But that's a tough division. The NL West is good. They got 4 teams that are in playoff contention. So I think that, and I have no faith in the Mets. Like, I think they're broken and they're done. I just don't see a way out.
I couldn't agree with you more, Matt. It's a very, very bad sign when your owner is doing midseason press conferences. That is bad.
Yeah,
when he calls them, that's bad.
No, it is bad, and unless Verlander and Scherzer find the fountain of youth like 5-6 years ago, I think they're done. I just don't see a way out for them. They would have to make a ton of trades to get their roster good enough to be able to contend, and they'd have to give up stuff, and their payroll's already big enough. And I don't know. Them or the Yankees, neither one of them scare me. I would feel very confident in saying neither one of those teams would even sniff winning a playoff series or the World Series if the Mets are even fortunate to get in. But they don't scare me. The Yankees just don't hit. Sean Casey, though, your neighbor, that guy from St. Clair, the mayor, is going to try to resurrect the Yankee lineup without Aaron Judge. Good luck to him.
Good luck, man. He's way too high energy for the New York Yankees.
I love him. He's hilarious. He's a great interview. Too. He's really, really entertaining guy. Yeah, I don't think it changes much. Do you?
No. Not in the slightest. No offense to Sean Casey, but I think the Yankees.
It won't be his fault.
The Yankees.
I mean, he's a 300 career hitter. It's not like he just forgot how to hit. It's these idiots. It's too stubborn, and they don't want to. How's he going to teach Stanton how to hit the opposite field?
Yeah. God. All Stanton does is dingers. Exactly. That's all he's there for. And honestly, he's only there because he's paid so much.
Yeah. No, I know, and he can't really move him. All right, and then let's wrap up with. We talked about it, messaged each other on Sunday night. The Pirates actually make a good pick in the draft. That has to make you feel good. if they weren't going to take Cruz, I know our cousin Jarrett's pissed about that still. But
I know.
I think Skeens was a good pick. I think it was probably the right pick. And I got to applaud the Pirates for doing the right thing for once. And what are your thoughts? And is next year the year? And do you think that they should move some of these guys out of here right now and just be all in for the next 2 years?
All right. So I've heard, on the radio, they say he's going to debut this year at the end of the year. He's going to come up in June next year. I think next year, if he's not here by June, that's a mistake.
Problem, yeah.
A total mistake. Everybody that should, they've been talking about for, it seems like 3 years, they've got to be in spring training and fighting for roster spots leading into the 2024 regular season.
I agree.
Have to. You have to try to contend from the first pitch of the first game of the season. He should start. Honestly, Paul Skeens should be the starter.
Yeah. No, I thought.
Sorry, Mitch.
Madden made an interesting point on his show today about having Keller start the opening day at home and then Skeens game 2, so Nutting can guarantee 2 sellouts in a row. So that greedy fuck, he'll probably do that. But no, I'm with you. I think the Pirates really, and I know it would be an unpopular opinion, but if there's teams that are interested in some of these pieces that they have, they should move them this year and try to get, and I'm not saying trade for like future considerations, but if a team's willing to part with a player that maybe they have some depth at that position and a veteran of some kind, and then they want your relief pitcher, Bednar, whoever, get back a piece that you can use or cut salary so you can go out and get somebody. Not that you have a ton of salary to cut because you don't spend that much, but I think they should decide. I mean, they got Santana, Rich Hill, they got to go. Just get those guys out. They're not going to help you next year. So they've done what they can this year. Move them. If someone wants to give you a bunch for Sawinski to hit a few home runs in the playoffs or somebody, I'd say get rid of him too. What do you think? I mean, who's untouchable on the team other than some of the very top prospects?
Everybody's touchable.
I like that. Yeah.
Everybody has got. Brian Reynolds is touchable. Keller is touchable. Bednar is touchable.
Key Brian Hayes, he can't be touchable.
Well, he can't be touched. Yeah, he's in bubble
wrap. So fragile.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's touchable. That's the thing, is we don't have one player except maybe Paul Skeens. It's just like, nothing that you offer us will be of equal value in return.
Right.
We don't have a good enough player.
Probably when Cruz comes back, maybe him. But I mean, who knows? I mean, he might not be the same self when he gets back from injury. But no, I'm with you. I think they need to. If Nutty's coming out and saying he expects him to contend next year and be a deep playoff contender the year after that, then that's probably a good sign that he said that, because maybe that means he'll sign some people. But I was looking through some of the free agents, and there's a lot of old guys on there for the next year that they'll probably take, and they'll probably underwhelm us as usual. But if they can move pieces right now and help teams who want to win now to give them more than they should, they need to do it. Yeah, they say 2024, 2025. All right, well, that's next year. That's right. Literally, that's it, man. That's what everyone's been waiting for. Their entire focus should be getting their team ready for 24 right now. Everything. So everything they do with Skeens, they bring him up this year. Whatever they do to get him some experience should be based on what we're going to do in 24. That's how they have to approach it. But I don't know. I'm hopeful, but I'm not confident they will do that. Well, they'll probably have Paul Skeens at fucking shortstop or something, Yeah. Stupid. Right. Well, Henry Davis is still going to shift him to where are they going to play him next year? First base? Yeah, probably. God. So he's not injury prone. And then they probably should play. So do you think Nick Gonzalez will probably end up being the second baseman, I would assume, going forward? Yeah, so I would think so. Just play him at second base now for the rest of this year. Just get him used to it. That's his position now. Quit Matt, it makes too much sense. Yeah, you put him at second. Davis should catch because he's a catcher. Yes. Jesus Christ. Head scratchers. But anyway, they made a good pick, so we can't be too pissed. We'll just see how bad they fuck it up going forward. But anyway, Sam, great talking to you as always. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you over the weekend and be back with you here on the show next week. Yes, sir. It was great talking to you, Matt. Go Bucks. All right. That's Sammy P. from Upper St. Clair. his mayor, Sean Casey, now the Yankees hitting coach, as they pull out all the stops to try to help themselves make the playoffs. All right, that's going to do it for us here on Bettor's Last Stand. Thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any questions, comments, observations, get a hold of us on the Pine Room Frio and Stack Watchdog hotline, 304-214-1600. You could call during our show hours if you have any thoughts, comments about any of our shows, Bettor's Last Stand, the podcast, the radio show, Soup and Stuff, anything that we do here in the Pine Room Studios. We would love to hear from you. Until next week, it's Matt signing off. Hopefully I'll have some company here, but appreciate Sam checking in with us as always. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your summer, and hopefully we have some winners for you, and be sure and follow us on social media so we can keep the winners rolling as we head towards football season. It won't be long now. Have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next week on Bettor's Last Stand.